On October 28th, 2017, one of the greatest tweets of all time was sent. An account with the handle lie_cheat_steal tweets at wrestling and MMA journalist, Will Ospreay enjoyer, and the most jacked wrestling critic, Dave Meltzer, the following message. Been asking the same question again and again. What was the reason behind not rating HBK vs. Taker, parentheses, WrestleMania 25, a perfect 5-star? Uncle Dave replies, because I've been watching a long time and have seen numerous matches better. Someone by the handle of unfollow_Logan responds with a tweet that has since been deleted, but as I understand it, roughly says something to the effect of, Mania 25 and that match specifically was one of the best nights of my life. Looking at the dim white light of his phone and the darkness of shadows cast by the hideous mass of objects in his office, sweat glistening off his brow, Dave Meltzer responds with one of my favorite comebacks I've ever read. Mine was my kids being born and getting awards, sex with people who shall be left unnamed, and Frye vs. Takayama. Fatality. The man is forced to delete his tweet, change his name, and move to Thailand in order to avoid extradition. Meltzer, satisfied with his slaughter, goes back to watching Kenny Omega matches with the half chub, all while doing bicep curls in preparation for his final reckoning with Jim Cornette, whenever it may come. For what it's worth, after getting violently disemboweled with words, Mr. Unfollow replied to Dave with one last comment, all caps, "Holy shit! Just watch that fight. Insane." But what the hell are they talking about? Why is this on par with hot sex with Will Ospreay, unnamed people, and the miracle of childbirth? 3 words, my friend. 3 simple words. Pride never die.
Don't hurt me again. Don't hurt me again. Don't hurt me again. Don't hurt me again. Don't hurt me again, baby. No. What up, love? I need a hug, cause drugs be taking over. Shorty couldn't take it no more, she went loca. I've been good though, I can't complain. I could probably cop a half a plane. Drinking juice just like Jack LaLanne now. I'ma strike it rich any day now. You know I gotta get a plate now. Virtuoso on the keyboard, I rap the eastern seaboard. Jeez, Lord, please leave the Z3 keys before you leave. Don't sneeze on my shit, cause for she's I'ma flip ya. Pedicure, foot slide in a slipper. Trying to do the remix with Pitbull. Tell the pilot land to shipple. Play the violin with dimples. Life's ironic and it's simple. There's no hit records on the demo. There's no hit records on the demo. Cash me hopping out the limo. Cash me hopping out the limo. Smoke good fucking drink. Drive nice car with all green mink. Smoke good fucking drink. Drive nice car with all green mink. What you think? Free my motherfucking brother with all green mink. Smoke good fucking drink. Drive nice car with all green mink. Smoke good fucking drink. Drive nice car with all green mink. What you think?
Now, before comments start flying, I know a healthy portion, if not most of you Neanderthals, have already seen Frye Takayama, or are at least aware of it. There's a large overlap between MMA and pro wrestling fandoms, especially old Pride era MMA, and especially nerds like us who watch Shoot Style. But, I know some of you don't, so I'm going to explain it. If this is redundant, please skip a little bit ahead. Don Frye is a former D1 NCAA wrestler, boxer, and winner of the UFC 8 and Ultimate tournaments. He has a beautiful mustache with an aura only matched by his mentor and friend Dan Severn. He also was a damn good pro wrestler during his MMA hiatus after winning those UFC one-night tournaments, wrestling in New Japan Pro Wrestling starting in 1997, winning the IWGP Championship, and also earning the most prestigious honor of all, competing against Antonio Inoki in his retirement match, mauling the aged wrestling god before falling victim to an octopus stretch that forced him to tap. Because of New Japan copyright restrictions, I cannot show you said match, so Sam is going to place B-roll of his choice over this. Wow, amazing! I love whatever this is. What's important is that he's charismatic, skilled, and also scary as fuck in a shoot fight. This is a man who no-sold a toehold by Ken Shamrock in real life, and he was in a Godzilla movie where he punches an alien. By all rights, a national treasure. Yoshihiro Takayama is a roving Japanese mountain giant who ate wayward travelers for 1,000 generations before joining UWFI, training under the not-so-careful tutelage of alleged mixed martial artist and excellent pro wrestler Nobuhiko Takada, a man with a heel hook so powerful he could Jedi mind trick you into tapping into it, even if it's not locked in yet. For whatever reason, after UWFI and Kingdom folded, instead of following his brethren to Pancrase, other UWF spin-offs, or even to New Japan, he instead made the fateful decision to go to All Japan and then later Noah once Baba died, enjoying an awesome career with highlight matches like his GHC title challenge versus Kenta Kobashi. Later in his career, he would sadly be paralyzed during a match, but in happy news, he seems to be doing better, with his friend Minoru Suzuki challenging him during the most recent Takayama Mania show, a series of events Suzuki promotes with proceeds going to Takayama's family. While he was unable to meet the demands of Minoru to punt him in the face, he seems to be in high spirits, with the very first thing he did upon gaining the ability to use his hands in order to operate an iPad being writing a review of Godzilla -1 because he's just the fucking best. He's a legend of the sport, and I wish nothing but the best for him. Hopefully soon he'll be back doing what he does best, posing riddles to people on bridges and stealing livestock to take back to his cave. Something he was less good at was MMA, holding a record of 1 win and 5 losses, with that 1 win probably being a work against Hikaru Sato, and one of those 5 losses coming to Bob Sapp via armbar. Yes, really, that Bob Sapp. He has an armbar win. Sadly, the fight is too dumb to be a work, and it appears Taka was not able to overcome the Michael Jordan-esque submission acumen of Senior Sapp. All this being said, he was just crazy enough to face all comers, and did so on June 23, 2002 at Saitama Super Arena for Pride 21. As we fully dissect this beast, I think it's best that we define our terms to avoid confusion. A shoot is a fight that is a legitimate contest. A work is one with a predetermined outcome. There can be matches or fights with a mix of both elements, from Pancrase fights where they would work the first section of a match and then actually fight for the remainder, just straight up illegal fight throwing, or pro wrestling matches that get a little too real like Inoki versus the Great Antonio. But for clarity going forward, we're going to ask simply whether a bout is predetermined or not predetermined. Work or shoot. Frye versus Takayama is not a work in the traditional sense, though maybe in a greater Calvinist sense. Nobody picked the winner ahead of time, aside from the god that sculpted Don Frye's head out of marble, so it is not fixed per se, but what it absolutely is a spot. Both men had agreed ahead of time to keep the fight standing, which isn't super uncommon in that era of fighting, more so now, but things somewhat close to that still happen. From Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Kevin Holland forming a gentleman's agreement to not wrestle for the first couple rounds of their fight in order to give the fans a show, to Max Holloway pointing to the middle of the octagon and challenging opponents like Dustin Poirier, Arnold Allen, and most recently Justin Gaethje to swang and or bang with him on the promotion's logo. None of this constitutes a work by our definitions, however. In neither case was the agreement binding in either way. In the latter case, it was a spontaneous challenge issued in the heat of battle, and evidently neither were cooperative enough to necessitate someone getting their kneecaps taken by a very reputable gambling businessman. What makes this one, in the case of Frye Takayama, different is the specificity and cooperation of the fight. For all intents and purposes, the two men call a spot like you would in pro wrestling, each grabbing a collar tie in one hand and swinging for the fences with the other. It gets broken up once Takayama's chin starts to crack by Taka grabbing a clinch position to take a breather, but rather than the case of Wonder Boy vs. Holland previously, where Holland begins straight up wrestling out of desperation, Takayama takes his breather and then goes right back to work, even trying to leverage the clinch position into throwing some knees and elbows. Even more amazingly, after a quick check by the doctors that might have given either man time to rethink their strategy, they go right back to the phone booth fighting that opened the bout. It's only after his face is beginning to resemble the most tender cut of beef from Matsunaga's steakhouse that Takayama attempts a desperation bodylock takedown, which only accomplishes pulling Frye straight on top of him. And finally, the empathetic Frye sort of half-heartedly punches him to a finish. When I talk about this fight being cooperative, I want to make it clear that in no way am I diminishing the toughness of the two men. Frye and Takayama have balls of brass and the hearts of lions wearing affliction shirts. This is cooperative in the same way that technically Necro Butcher vs. Samoa Joe is cooperative. And by that, I mean in both cases, they're incurring 100% real brain damage, but there's a mutual agreement as to what quote-unquote spots will be done. That's why I single out the fight as pretty unique in how it blends the line between pro wrestling and MMA. The sole differences between this and the IWA Mid-South CTE Classic are that there is no winner picked ahead of time, and they have opted to not involve guardrails in this carnage. Everything else has been decided. They have taken a sport with a nearly infinite decision tree and simplified it into a game with only one option: swing and swing hard. They took it from human chess to hungry, hungry hippos. Alright, it's somewhat interesting as a note in MMA history, but why am I really covering this on a channel first and foremost dedicated to pro wrestling? Firstly, because it's awesome, and I love mixed martial arts as much as pro wrestling, but also because I think the line between the two is murkier than we think, and all the more beautiful because of it. While it's become more apparent in recent years with developments like the UFC's parent company purchasing WWE, I'd like to think the two sports are two products that belong on the same shelf. While the modern sport of MMA has tried to distance itself from its pro wrestling roots, pride fights like Frye Takayama fall under the same umbrella as wrestling, which I will pretentiously define as combat theater. It's using physical violence primarily as a means of entertainment. Whereas in modern MMA, almost every fighter is far more concerned with winning than putting on a show, this fight is about as much of a contest of skill as a children's board game like Candyland is, where the entire game is decided by the shuffle, and in this case the shuffle is just how durable and powerful each man is respectively. The point is not really to win, the point is the spectacle. In other words, it's sports entertainment. In some strange irony, it's almost like the very beginnings of pro wrestling, when catch wrestlers at carnivals would start working aspects of matches to make them entertaining, whilst still keeping some spirit of competition. But none of this is meant to denigrate Frye vs. Takayama. Far from it. I simply want to use it as a case study for how we view the relationship and/or differences between a shoot fight and wrestling. While some Italian men in funny suits who run the sports books might have some issues about blending the line between real and worked, I think there shouldn't be a hard line. I think the gray area in between is beautiful, and because we get these masterpieces of physical violence, two men uncooperatively cooperate to make something electric. Frye Takayama is one of one, and will live in our minds far longer than most fully worked wrestling matches or fully cooperative shoot fights. Instead of aiming derision at the fight as some people who might disregard wrestling as fake might, I instead want to draw upon the respect that like-minded people like us have for wrestling, and apply it here. Just like the physical damage, pain, and mental toll in pro wrestling is very real, it is here. And just because there's a spot called, aka a worked element, once again, the damage is no less real than any other combat sports match ending by knockout. In other words, if stiff, brutal, pro wrestling matches are fake despite the physical damage because of worked elements, then so is Frye Takayama. And if Frye Takayama isn't real, then nothing is.